We continue learning Dirshu Mishnah Brura Yoimi, beginning Siman Kof Ayin Gimel. The Siman that the Machaber coins as the Din Mayim Emsoyim, the middle waters, which already are quite intriguing, as I'm sure many of us are wondering. Wait, we know about Mayim Achroinim. Not maybe. We've learned about Netilas Yadayim, which is Mayim Rishonim, water before the meal. But what's Mayim Emsoyim? Says the Mechaber Seval of Mayim Emsoyim is a Rishos. What is this entity of Mayim Rishonim? Says Emsoyim. Says the Mechaber of Hani Mini Bein Tavshil L'Tavshil. That's between dishes. Aval Bein Tavshil L'Gevina Chayva. Then you have to wash Vayin B'Yordea Siman Peitas. So the Mechaber is teaching us between dishes there was a form of etiquette as well as cleanliness. That before you have another dish, you wash your hands. Says the Mechaber, that's a Rishos. But between Tavshil and Gvina, which sounds like between a form of meat and cheese dish, now how you're eating them together is obviously a good question, then it is obligatory. Says the Mishnah Brura, Simkatan Aleph, Rishos, Rata Noitel, Rata Ina Noitel. Could do what you want. Ayin Yordea Siman Peitas, if Gimel Sham Nisvar, Bagal Defima Ageno. Yeshi Tel Yadav Afila Bein Tavshil Shal Gvina Letavshil Shal Basar. So now this makes a little more sense to us. The Rama over there talks. Now, what is the word Tavshil Shal Basar, Tavshil Shal Gvina? That is a proper world war. For all intents and purposes, we're not going to explain it. That is a fish or milk, a meat or milk dish. A regular meat or milk. Why it might have different dinim is something for Yardei Mir Tashem. But Tavshil Shal Gvina, Letavshil Shal Basar, you're having milchiks, and then you're having fleshik, Shachravim, Nagab, and Biyadav. If they touch your hands, then it's an obligation, a chayva, to wash your hands. Only time it's a Rishos if they're the same type, if they're both meat or both milk. And that is Sevalif, and we'll leave it at that. And Mir Tashem, in Kaila, we're actually learning Siman Beitas, so maybe there'll be some shirim on the necessity to wash out your hands, your mouth, etc., between meat, milk, etc. Says between meat and fish, or fish and meat, you have to wash your hands. You can bring on saras. We don't have fish and meat together. It's like kana. Chamira saikanta meisura. Ayin yardei simin kof tes zayin. Which are the halachas of sakana. Says Mishabur Sivkatan Gimel Davar Acher. Saras, Ayin Magen Avram, Shekos of the Eshet Zvaneino. Ain't Sakana Kolkach. Efsher, maybe. There's not so much Sakana. To become with Varam, the Shana Tzvivim, see it's on many things. It's interesting, Mr. Buruz, he doesn't just say blankly, we don't have to worry about this. He says maybe, perhaps. And that's the psak. The psak is that we definitely do not eat meat and milk together. But there's always this opinion of Magen Avram, which allows us in certain scenarios to be lenient. We're not chayshish to wash our hands, but we are chayshish to eat something between fish and meat, and to drink. And we continue with Sif Gimel. Says the Mechaber, all the halachos of Mayim Achrayim apply to these Mayim Emsoyim. Bein lahakir, bein lahachmer, chutz, me'esach hadash, ha'poisel Emsoyim, v'nei shadayin ratzalach of yadav zrichat shimar, because you need to still eat, you need to wash your hands. V'chutz minigiv yadayim, she'emsoyim zrichat nigiv karishonim, you have to dry your hands like regular netilas yadayim, not like Mayim Achrayim. Says the Rama, v'yisha amru she'emsoyim, zrichat davka Mayim. Some say Msayim need water. Mashegim b'achrayim comes from Kufay Aleph. As Mir Hashem will get to the Mayim Achrayim, there's more room to be lenient to wash your hands with other forms of liquids, even non-water. Says Mishabura Sivkatan, hey, noyegim b'emsayim. Hainu shavin tavshel ikvina. As we started off Sif Aleph learning, that's when we're going to be washing our hands between the meat and milk and meat. Bein lahakil Sivkatan vav. Hainu she'in tzarich netila b'kli. That you don't need to wash your hands with a kli, into a kli, like we've seen extensively by regular Netilas Yadayim for bread before the meal, a kli is a critical ingredient, which is not true, but my machrayim and now my memsayim. Gamrak ad perek sheni into the second knuckle. Gamin chatzit ma'akiv and v'diavet a chatzit will not be ma'akiv. But things that are poisel b'emsayim sivkot zayin ena kavana shemisiach daitel achashet el emsayim nevatel netilas emsayim doesn't mean if you don't have kavana. Who cares? Who cares that you weren't thinking about it? Your hands didn't touch the cheese before you ate the meat. That if you stop thinking about washing your hands, it removes the status that they are washed of the mayim rishaynim. Only mentioning this due to the fact that it's equated to my machronim. My machronim. Why should I? You're not eating anymore. You're about to bench. Who cares what your hands are going to touch? It's not the problem. Washing for the middle water is not the same. You still can't touch covered areas, etc., as you're still eating. What's the reason you have to dry your hands? We learned this when we learned about Netilas Yadayim. The reason being is that it's disgusting to eat with wet hands. Maybe over here now by my Achronim, Sheshar Mashkim Mitoshem Atzman Shmeinim, they themselves are fatty. They do not clean off the shuman and the meichel. My machronim only come to remove the zuama, to remove the filth. Afilu mashkin zuma, any form of mashkin does that. Rashal meichel the mutter b'shar mashkin. V'kam machronim eskimu lerama. Many achronim are maskim to the rama. With that, we'll see a few dirshus before calling it a day. Dirshu number 1 over here says Rata Naitel, Rata Einoi Naitel, with regard to these Mayim and Sayim, and he explains if one makes a bracha and mayachal in the middle of a meal, we're going to see in Kuf Bei Aleph that if you're an istanis, you have to wash your hands before you make that bracha. Again, let's say a non-bread meal, or let's say on a dessert. Why? Because your hands are dirty from eating. Sharatinov there adds on. Similarly, if you want to make a bracha, any bracha, and your hands are dirty, you have to wash your hands. Stam Yudayim are dirty, etc., and therefore you have to make sure they're clean, and that's similar to over here. You're eating further. If they're dirty, you have to wash your hands. Says the Dirshu number 2, if you didn't touch your food, but rather you ate with a fork, a knife, etc., then you don't have to wash your hands again. Similarly, the Pri Chadash and Erdea writes as such, not like the Pri Megadim writes that in all scenarios, even if you're using a fork, Pri Megadim still, unless it's a Tayrach, he wants you to be machmer to wash your hands, but the Mishmur over here sounds like the Pri Chadash that one can be makel if he eats with utensils. Now, sif beis over here is very big sif, that fish and meat could be kosher davar acher, sakana. What about putting fish and meat on the same table? Says the Kaf HaChaim that it's not the same halachas as fish, as meat and milk. One is allowed to put them on the same table. But to put them in one, but elsewhere, the Kaf HaChaim is in Kufta Zayin Yerodea writes that one should be machmer to have a hefsek. What about if someone's eating himself? The Kaf HaChaim writes, Roy lahachmer, that you should not have them on the same table. Why? Because you might come to eat one for the other. The Shevet HaLevi writes, the meaning is to be makel, to put them on the same table, but Yeshanagu brach b'derech chumra, to bring them not together. And of course, that's, many people have liver and fish on the same table. Of course, you're not going to eat them together, and that's this all halacha that you have to wash your mouth in between, etc. But to be on the same table and just to speak out, if anyone's wondering what is this halacha, he's referencing that when it comes to meat and milk, you're not allowed to have them on the same table, even if you're not eating them. If I'm eating meat and you're eating milk and we're sitting on one table, we're not allowed to eat together. Chashash, I may come take from your food. Again, assuming that you, I don't know who I'm talking to, is someone that I'm friendly with, and I might come eat your food, a family member, etc. So what do? You put down a hecker, you have tape placemats, etc., etc. The Dirshu over here, note number 4, comments on this Magen Avram that says Efshar nowadays is going to be different. Now, what if the roitev of these two items mixed, the sauce, the paiskim dan, is there a din of bittel? We know in all of halacha, a piece of milk, that of milk falls into my chalent. It's bittul. It's if it's not there. Do we say bittul on fish and meat, which is a sakana? So on one hand, it's not usr. The other hand, it's a drop of poison. It's worse. Maybe we should be more machmir. So the Shevet HaLevi writes, Ikar halacha is that we do say bittul in a place of hefsid, and we might have covered Shabbos, different malkiel. Shevet HaLevi writes, one can be makel if it's a suffix on shishim as well. Suffix if there's shishim, and he goes through the shitais. The Magen Avraham, Chasam Sofer writes, nowadays, Nishana Hateva, it's not such a sakana. And let's say a piece of meat falls into a fish dish, and there's not shishim, there could be mekel, that maybe all the time went out, and the time is bottle. Obviously, you take out the fish, you take out the meat. Again, only in a scenario that one does not have any other food, etc. Says the Divrei Malkiel, Meniyas Kavod Shabbos. You see the incredible importance of Kavod Shabbos, one could be mekel. And of course, Dirshu continues over here. What about a kli? Says the Shevet HaLevi that you have to do agola if you mess it up. That's if it cooks both items together. Not like the Divrei Malkiel that says, wait 24 hours. Again, the Divrei Malkiel only says a b'diavad al-chatchila. That there's no choice, then you can do. But again, what we see from over here is that to use a kli to cook my fish and cook my meat, not simultaneously, that's not a problem. We're discussing over here only if they're there simultaneously. One after another would not be a problem. Yes, there are those that have minhagim perhaps to be machmir, but lebaisa, one is allowed to be mekel lehalacha. And he doesn't wash his hands. Okay, let's leave this for now. And number 6 points out that drinking schnapps after the fish, many people do this. Shartzian says you don't have to make a bracha on such, because it's rugel, and therefore it's not a problem. Therefore it's not a problem. We'll stop over here in Mitzvah Shem. We'll continue with Siman Kuf Ayin Dayin. Kuf Ayin Dalid, the halachas of wine in the middle of a meal, b'siyata dishmaya.